This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network, and the following program is brought to you by the Verdoliak Law Group, fighting insurance companies since 1963, and TickSplits.com. TickSplits.com, no service fees. The price you see is the price you pay.
This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. The following program is recorded live and intended for all audiences.
Radio is scripted now. We just come up with it. We don't use computers. We don't rehearse. We're going to talk about this next. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Bulls. And then we're going to have Brad Bigson. And then we're going to have all this. No. If you don't know what you're going to talk about in the top of your head before a show, you shouldn't be in the business. I don't know what you got. I feel like Vince Vaughn in a couple's retreat. The Sharks are circling. Old school, baby.
You're listening to the Mike North Advantage, and it begins right now.
That's right. The Mike North Advantage starts right now. My name is Aldo Gandia. I am Mike's wingman. We got a lot to cover today. We've got the Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown rift. We've got Zion Williamson's exploding sneaker. What has Coach Don Nelson been doing since retiring? And much more, including Mike's picks. Let me introduce the star of the show, Mike North. How are you, my friend?
Oh, very, very cute. I like the ending there. Zion Williamson, all these other people. We got a plate that's loaded. I mean, you ever get a plate where, you know, you get overflowing of spaghetti and meatballs and you go, boy, I'm absolutely full. I can't eat anymore. Then you try to eat some more, and then you're even doubly full. We're going to be triply full today because, man, there's so much BS and so much crap going on and so much nonsense, even in our hometown. And if I can, Aldo, if you'll permit me.
Absolutely.
First of all, thank God we have this show because we can exactly tell it like it is, as we see it now. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to start this show off with the Jussie Smollett situation, okay? And the nonsense I'm hearing from blaming this person or that politician or anything else. I am absolutely mind-boggled that here's a guy that insulted every segment of society in one of the greatest cities in the world where I grew up and where Aldo grew up.
That's right.
And yet all I see on TV, and I don't care what station it is one side jumping to his defense and the other side, well, you know what, we better wait and see what happens. And then some people on that network saying, yeah, we're with him. And I don't understand, and I know I said this in 2010, 2011, 2012. There are people on TV and in the media that want to make the first hit. And it's unbelievable to me that I'll be watching on TV a guy like, for instance, and I'm not playing any preferable games here, Fox TV, a guy like Bill Hemmer, who doesn't even know that Jussie Smollett had a prior. And then they bring the judge on, this Napolitano, who didn't even know. He says, as far as I know, I don't think he's ever been in trouble before. Who the hell is producing these programs and thinking to not even get Chicago people on until the day of atonement for him, which was yesterday after Eddie Johnson? Oh, it's okay to bring some Chicago people on. Aldo, I will tell you this. I've never seen a city so underrepresented because if they would have put me on, I would have ruined the narrative day one. I would have said, this is all nonsense. And you know I said that from the beginning, and you've been in TV. The underrepresentation, they had a panel of 3 people, 3 former law enforcement officers, one from Atlanta, one from New York, and one from a police union that's not even in Chicago. How do you do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So no one at all from Chicago you spotted on any of these news shows talking about this issue, huh?
I watch TV for a living because I don't make a living because I don't have to. I have money. I don't need to. I get checks here and there for my picks and everything else. I don't care. But I watch a lot of TV, and it's everybody. It's everybody. And you know, the BS and the lies. And, you know, I heard D.L. Hughley. I I have no gripe with this guy. Blaming politicians, blaming the president. Because of this guy? Hey, look, if we're such a racist city, why do you have to plan a racist attack?
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to tell you. Because gays were transgenders, white, straights. This guy insulted everybody that he could find. Minorities. You name it, when you pull a city through that, and this kid can't make it on 7 figures. And then yesterday, I hear the police superintendent who did a great job, Eddie Johnson.
Yes, he did.
He said, well, hopefully he'll apologize and pay the bill. Wait a minute. If you don't throw the book at this guy, then other people will do the same thing. Although, if what's happened to this kid is a deterrent, I don't know what is, except if he skates. Mm-hmm. You can't do what he did and have people vouching for him after the fact and after all the facts are out. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I don't know about you, but you know in the neighborhood, in the hoods we grew up in, they go on 90% less evidence and put you away than what this kid's got on him, don't you think?
That's for sure. Well,
right?
And the latest is that Mr. Smollett is still saying that he's innocent. He went to the set of where Empire is taped. He gathered the entire cast together. Everyone expected him to make an apology, but he maintains his innocence. So we'll see what happens. This is the story.
You know what?
Over.
I'll tell you what's funny about this, and then we can move on, is that they're saying now there's some people on that set that don't want him around. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't think everybody's in lockstep about this.
Oh, yeah.
There's, like I said, the north side, the south side, the west side, the northeast side, the west. I mean, you name it. In Chicago, I want to tell Dio Hughley, Fox, MSNBC, Anna Navarro's commenting on this. I mean, my God, get Chicago people on. But see, it would ruin the 3-week narrative if they put somebody on that says it's BS. It would ruin the 3-week narrative if you put a former retired Chicago police officer on who actually knows the area and knew how cold it was.
Yep.
Oh, we're hearing it was cold. Cold? It was colder than the Antarctic that night. So that's all I'm saying. I'm blaming everybody that's trying to give this kid a pass, and also the networks for just doing a horrible job. And Robin Roberts, turn in your interviewer card. Turn it in. Turn it in. Come on now. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, Robin
All right,
Roberts.
let's get to Antonio Brown now. Any comments by my partner?
I know. I think you've covered it all. Great
And
way.
that's not usually because you know what? I would say this. You and I are well balanced.
Yeah.
And we can have a discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Not yell at each other like they have these panels, the A team, with this, are you kidding me? They're the Z team, and they're not even from the city. It's a joke.
All right, let's move on to the world of
Can
sports.
I go get a drink of water?
You probably need one right now, right?
I've had 17 cups of coffee. I've been steaming since 3 days ago.
Well, yeah, I saw you post about this topic the very day that it happened.
Oh, I've been in love with this topic because everybody's a fool. Not me. I called it day one, just like I called Richard Jewell, just like I called the Duke lacrosse thing. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. But see, they don't want anybody to really come on and represent the city and say, hey, man, there's a good chance this didn't happen. And I said it on Twitter day one. And if you're afraid to say that, but you're not afraid to say that the city did something to him, then you shouldn't even be in journalism. But journalism's dead. It is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of issues on how this story has been covered, and my problem with the whole thing is just everybody rushes to judgment, and we need to get the facts on stuff before we start, hanging people.
I rush to judgment, or you rush to judgment, or maybe some other commentators rush to judgment, and you know what? If they give the rush to judgment side on behalf of a great city and on behalf of knowing this could have never happened, they won't let you rush to judgment. But if you rush to judgment the other way, it's like, my God, the first day, this guy, they have tapes. First of all, if those 2 Nigerian brothers walked up to him, he'd be dead if they were really going to beat his ass.
Oh, my God, those guys are jacked.
Let me tell you something. I mean, those guys are imposing figures.
Yes.
And he had a little scratch on his face. This guy's never been jumped. He's never been jumped. Period.
Yeah.
My God. I was jumped by some of the best gangs in the city, and you want to know something? They'd be ashamed by what if allegedly this guy got beat up and there's a scratch on his eye. Come on.
We gotta cover that in the autobiography. The worst attacks on Mike North. Worst ass kickings.
I got it. Hey, listen. Believe me, I've been chased from everything from chains to back in the day when they had car antennas. Are you kidding?
I hear you.
Thank God there was no gunplay.
I hear you. Oh my gosh, those were the good old days when you could argue with someone and not worry about getting shot.
The good old days, the most that could happen, you get busted with a car antenna over the head,
That's
maybe
right.
some brass knuckles.
That's right.
You know, now they pull out an AK-47 because you have a disagreement about where you want to go eat.
How about that? Well, hopefully nobody on the Pittsburgh Steelers is pulling on an AK-47 because there is a big rift going on over there. I saw you tweeting about this, and I figured, well, this has to be one of our major topics of discussion today on the Mike North Advantage, which you can listen to every Friday at 9 a.m., or excuse me, at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Sometimes we start at 9 a.m.
Anytime. We just let the word out.
That's right. You can listen to it on Mixler.com live, or you can listen to the podcast version. And again, we're on Monday nights. Mike always has a special guest on Monday nights, and that's at 7 p.m. Central.
Got another big one coming up, man. We've had George, Colbert, Andy Furman, Jesse Roth. Got a bigger one, even bigger than them coming up.
Wow. What about that for a
I know,
tease?
and those are big guys.
Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm still getting great feedback on the appearances by those former Bears and even Andy Furman.
I love Bears Barroom. I love this show. I'm passionate about everything we do. You know, you and I, we're business people. We talk things over. Sometimes, you know, we have disagreements. Sometimes we don't, but we eventually come to a good place. And, you know, Bears Barroom for sure. And my opportunities that I've had here to just express myself, because you can't always say what you want to say on Twitter. So, you know what? I think we're doing really well. Bears Barroom's doing well. We appreciate everybody. And, of course, Verdoliak, I'm going to see them this week, as a matter of fact. I'm going to go to lunch with the Verdoliaks, Eddie. You know, I got to watch. You know, I might make sure he picks up the check. And
good luck with that.
Some of the other guys to talk about Barroom and some other investment opportunities that, you know, you and I and others have going, and I have going for myself. So, you know, it's just a good time because radio is so dead right now. To be somebody that can express with a decent audience and tell the truth as you see it. Doesn't mean you're right about everything. But for instance, somebody asked me the other day, what's the problem with radio? I said, when everybody agrees, you're finished. You're finished.
Right.
I said, you know what? I could work with Jamel Hill. Jiggets and I always had disagreements. Always. And you know what? It gave both sides, and that's why we were popular. Plus, we had, back in the 90s, early 90s, a racial dichotomy on not a black station or an all-white station, but a crossover station that was second to none. I mean, we were before Wilbon and Kornheiser. We were before a lot of people, and we were free to discuss certain topics that other people wouldn't touch because, unfortunately, of racial identity and politics.
Yep. That is very true, and that you're absolutely right. One of the special things that we have going on here at Bears Barroom is the diversity of thought, opinion, and honesty. You know, we can share an honest opinion and not worry about corporate backlash, not worry about censors or anything like that. We tell it like it is, and you know, and if you enjoy honest opinions, this is the place to be. So,
oh baby, and you know what? Both of us got them. So, like we were discussing about Antonio Brown.
Yeah, so what's your overall assessment of that situation? And then a little later I'll play what Jason Whitlock feels about it, because there's been some criticism leveled at the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they've handled it. But let me get your overall assessment as to what's happening between this rift with Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and wide receiver Antonio Brown, who has demanded a trade.
I have no problem with Antonio Brown as a football player. And I know all the stats. And people are going, oh, you should add him to your team. What I have is lack of accountability. And once again, the media. I'm sorry, 3 different times he caused problems this year. And in the past, he caused problems. And he wasn't ready to play, and he is under a deal, a contract. He was a cancer. And I'm not hearing that from anybody. He was a cancer. He was Terrell Owens. Whether you like it or not, media, he was Terrell Owens. Better than Terrell Owens because of the passing rules and because the kid's gifted. Like I said, nothing against the guy as far as an athlete. But if you think that's the only thing you need, you're crazy. And he did let 52 other guys down. And I think that's been missing about this whole thing. I mean, it's amazing to me that you have broadcasters and hosts talking about Antonio Brown in reverent terms, when if a producer didn't show up 2 days in a row, they'd be out to get rid of him on meager pay. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So they're a bunch of hypocrites. They're kissing the ring of Antonio Brown, and you're calling out Ben Roethlisberger because he's convenient, because he had some issues way long ago compared to many now. And it's a convenient target, but he's not enough of a leader. You've won 2 Super Bowls with the guy. I don't know what else you got to do. And you wouldn't have won them without him. And he won them during the Brady years.
All right, well, let's listen to what Jason Whitlock on Fox Sports had to say about this in one of his segments for his show.
The split between Brown and Ben should lead to some real questions inside the Pittsburgh locker room and organization. Like any divorce, there's plenty of blame to go around on both sides. AB is clearly emotional and immature. He's a diva. But there's some merit to his complaint that Ben is unfairly and inappropriately above the law within the Pittsburgh organization. I believe Ben's poor leadership is central to the Steelers' dysfunction. He has taken multiple pot shots at head coach Mike Tomlin. Ben has dishonestly flirted with retirement talk. His response to the Steelers drafting Mason Rudolph was childish. It would be a mistake for the Steelers to jettison Brown without addressing the Big Ben in the room.
That's from the Fox show Speak for Yourself. Mike, what do you think about Jason Whitlock's opinion there on Big Ben?
I like Jason Whitlock, and some of the stuff he says is true. Some of he says is true. But Big Ben shows up to play, and Antonio Brown doesn't. And to say, well, he's immature. No. The man didn't show up for work. Come on, dude. He didn't show up for work, Jason. If you don't show up for work, Jason, you're gone. Period. They'll fill the dossier up on you. Once again, hypocritical. He'll never have me on the show, on that show. There's no way he'll have me on that show. You know why? Because I'd bury him. You cannot excuse and call somebody immature. No. He basically abandoned ship. So you can play the little word games. Immature, needs to grow up. In the meantime, Ben's a bad leader. This man wants to be paid like he's the president of the world. And you know what? He has character flaws like Ben. But Ben's put up and shut up, and so has Antonio. The bottom line is, it's Antonio Brown that didn't show up to work. And if Jason Whitlock don't show up to work, he can basically say Colin Cowherd didn't show proper leadership. But guess whose ass is out the door? Jason's. I mean, I make too much sense. I make too much damn sense. Because if Jason Whitlock did what Antonio Brown did, signed a deal, and then started sabotaging the broadcasts and the production of that TV show, which I've never watched, but I've known Jason for a long time. I mean, as far as professionally, and I've interviewed him long ago. But he don't want me on this. Nobody wants me on this because I tell the truth. You don't show up to work, you're gone.
Well, and Steelers general manager, what's his name, Colbert, said that Ben Roethlisberger should be admired by his teammates, and what he said was controversial because he referred to the players under Ben as his children. Louis Riddick of ESPN tweeted out, Referring to the other 52 players on the Steelers as Roethlisberger's children is as bad an analogy as a GM could make when describing the quarterback as the leader. That's utterly ridiculous. I don't agree with how Antonio Brown conducted himself, but I sure do better understand the culture over there now. Wow. I got to agree with Louis Riddick there. It does seem like this culture over there, and I agree with what you're saying. Roethlisberger is a winner. He's been playing great. He's there all the time. But at the same time, is he above criticism to be, treated in such a way by the general manager that the rest of the players are your kids? That's not good for business. That's going to hurt them attracting free agents. That's going to make it really tough, don't you think?
Well, I think money at the end of the day does it, but I will tell you this. I didn't like that either. I'm with Louis Riddick. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that either. But if somebody said Tom Brady's the adult and the 52 other guys on the Patriots are juvenile, mm-hmm. I don't think anything would be made much of it.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody understands. I think the guy meant it, and I'm not excusing this idiot, too. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like that if I was one of the players, especially guys. There's a guy on that team that was a Ranger, mm-hmm. an Army Ranger. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that... And I think the guy that escapes more than anybody is Tomlin.
Yeah.
I don't hear Mike Tomlin's name much, and a lot of this stuff is cultural, maybe.
Yes.
Like Whitlock said. But you know what? They got a black head coach, mm-hmm. don't they?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so who's failing who? And who screwed Tomlin? It wasn't Ben. Mm-hmm. It was the black wide receiver.
Yeah, well,
sabotage the year, and people are gonna blame Ben. Ask Tomlin who he'd go in the foxhole with. Go on, ask him.
That's right.
Ask Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Ask anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going in a foxhole with? The guy that shows up every day, or the guy that wears a fur coat on the sidelines, complaining he don't have enough money?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they ever going to win? Is Pittsburgh ever going to win a Super Bowl? The question is Antonio Brown ever going to win a Super Bowl? Ben doesn't have nothing to prove anymore. And neither does Antonio, really. But will Antonio, if he goes and plays with Arizona, is it really going to get that much better? We see what happened to Terrell Owens. We see what ended up happening to Randy Moss, okay? He had to go to New England. We see Odell Beckham. Are these people serious that with these type of receivers, a lot of catches? I mean, most of these catches, these guys do 7-yard outs, turn around, nobody's bumping them, nothing. I mean, you better catch 100 balls. But with the 100 balls, you have to have a little leadership yourself. Yeah. And when Jason Whitlock says immature, just say the guy committed mutiny, basically, or tried to. Come on. Come on.
That's right. Well, you get a lot of people in the chat room agreeing with you. Harp4803 says, good point. Tomlin needs to take responsibility.
I don't even hear his name. Are they afraid?
Yeah.
Why are they afraid to take on Mike Tomlin? My God, my God, Nagy had a 12-4 season. He gets more criticism for having an orderly clubhouse and a great football team than this guy. How come this guy's not being held accountable? Because the networks are afraid, the hosts are afraid for whatever reason.
Yeah, so you think it might be a race issue that they're being ultra careful in criticizing?
I never said that. Okay. I never said that.
I'm
for
just
whatever
asking.
reason. Maybe he goes right up to Rooney. Listen, let me tell everybody this. Mm-hmm. The Rooneys have done more for African American causes in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. If you want to talk about ownership, which of course you have your ownerships that are this way or that way. Mm-hmm. But they put in the Rooney Rule. They've done everything they can.
Sure.
And if they get a malcontent, regardless of color,
right?
And I've been hearing this a lot lately, because millions of dollars isn't enough for him. I mean, we just had a dude that can't act his way out of a paper bag, pretend he was lynched because he can't make it on a 7-figure salary. And but it's Big Ben and the Chicago Police's fault. It's a joke.
I got Mike North riled up. I love this.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. Common sense. And all these people that rush to judgment that all of a sudden now got to see more. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Everybody knows it. And you know what? The thing in Chicago, you got to be from here. Mm-hmm. You got to be from here. Don't sell that nonsense to me. They all got egg on their face.
Harp wants to know, if you're the Bears, should you make a trade for Antonio Brown for a third-round pick and a player for like maybe a 1-year rental to help you get to the Super Bowl? Or is he hands off?
Man, I'll tell you what. I wanted the running back. Okay?
Yep.
I think our receivers are good enough. I think their money, there's no way they're going to give him the money he wants, and he's a problem. He's a problem.
Yeah.
He don't show up for work, and he doesn't show up to play all the time. I mean, he did, and he put up big numbers. Look, I understand all that. This is the year that he and his brand went in the toilet, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't touch him.
Well, and I think the biggest issue Antonio Brown had with Roethlisberger was that he was passing the ball more often to Juju Smith-Schuster, and he was upset that he wasn't getting the targets that he felt he was entitled to as, in his opinion, the best receiver in football. So if he were to play with the Bears under Matt Nagy's offense where they distribute the ball to anybody and everybody, he wouldn't be happy here, that's for sure.
Oh, he's a talker. Don't forget, this guy, I mean, these guys have taken stuff in the locker room pictures. I mean, they've had issues. Look, he's not an angel, and he's not a victim. That's all I'm going to tell everybody. He makes a lot of money. He's going to go somewhere else. He doesn't like his place of employment anymore. Go. But while you're working there, give 100%, and he didn't.
Yep, he did not. That is for sure. So, how do the Steelers fix this problem? If they called you up and say, Mike North, please help us fix this problem, what do you do?
Well, you build your team through the draft. You might have to go through a tough year or two. You still got a great quarterback. You still got a pretty decent offensive line. You got to improve on defense. But I think Mike Tomlin's got to be tougher. I do. I think that one of the reasons New England's done so well is because there's only one boss. And, the fact that Antonio Brown went to see Rooney, the owner, and they couldn't come to an agreement, that means that below him, he went over and above and beyond Tomlin's head. But you know what? Tomlin couldn't control him. It's a rogue actor, man,
right,
who's very talented, that, like you said, has some inner feelings and some jealousies or what have you. But these guys are in the greatest positions of their life, and they don't like that for some reason. They don't like a lot of money, and they still, and a lot of people, they're unhinged. They hear it. They listen to too many people. We've all done that. You better smarten up. That's all I'm saying. Because Antonio Brown's days, I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, Le'Veon Bell too. I mean, these guys have been issues before.
Yeah.
This isn't new.
Well,
so I don't pick them up.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Steelers say we're not going to be, we're not going to give them up for nothing. We want a high value in return when we trade them, and if we trade them. And you've got to be kidding me. That's just got to be negotiation talk. At this point, you trade Antonio Brown for just about anything you can get because a lot of teams are not going to welcome that type of behavior into their clubhouse. I mean, if they get a third round pick. Yeah, but
there's a lot of teams, Aldo, that will.
Yeah.
And those are usually teams that don't win. But I'm not saying that there's not that guy that can come in. Look, I'm not saying Antonio Brown's not going to help a football team. But Antonio Brown's got the potential to destroy a football team.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have the guy that can help the football team with hardly any fear. Oh, I'm the victim. I'm this. I'm so sick and tired of it. I'm so sick and tired of it. I think a lot of people are, especially with millionaires. Give me a break.
Does he go to the New England Patriots and rehab his image under Bill Belichick there?
Let me ask you something.
Uh-huh.
How much is he, I mean, seriously, they won the Super Bowl last year, and they got a better receiver in Edelman as far as coming to work every day, getting the key yards, not being a regular season hero, coming big in the clutch. Not that Antonio Brown can't. He's had some big playoff games. We know all that. He's also had some dud playoff games. Receivers do. But if he had a better attitude, I think he would have been available to everybody else. He could have done this in a quiet way. He could have done this in a dignified way, and he didn't. And that's why now he hurt his brand. He didn't hurt the Pittsburgh Steelers brand. Man, how many Super Bowls they have? I think Tomlin's brand should be hurt more, but for whatever reason, they don't want to take him on. If Belichick farts, they put more heat on him than they put on Tomlin. It's a joke.
I agree. Jerry64 says that forget about trying to trade for Antonio Brown. The Bears should sign those two Nigerian guys.
tell you something. I had the hot dog stands, right? And I had this one hot dog stand that, we were in a mixed neighborhood. It was wonderful. I loved it. And I got to tell you something. The first thing I would have said is, I know people. You get this gut feeling when two guys like that are coming in and buying rope and ski masks. I just get. You know what they say? If you feel it about anything, about terrorists or whatever, if you see something suspicious, report it. And they were at the Crafty Beaver, okay? And they went and bought rope and tape, and they have magazines that are cut out. They left the evidence around. But here's the main thing, and I want everybody to know this. I had a guy named Tony who used to bookmake around the Elston and Montrose area. Mm-hmm. And I started gambling when I was 14. And he told me straight up, "Hey, kid, come here." And he talked like that, really. Every time I do Italian, people go, "Why do you always talk like that?" No, this is how he talked. "Hey, kid, come here." I think it was part of the persona, right? Yeah. He probably talked like, "How you doing, Jimmy?" But then, "Hey, kid, come here." After you leave, he goes, "Hi, Bob." "Hey, kid, come here." So, you walk in. I said, "I want to start going through you. I got this number from you." He goes, "You're going to be age 27. 2 rules. When you pay on Tuesday, you collect on Monday. And no checks. You don't write checks." Jussie Smollett's the dumbest criminal who ever lived. The dumbest ass criminal who ever lived. And that's what he is, by the way, a criminal. And to write a check in this town, forget about any other town. You want to write a check in, I don't know, Lexington, Kentucky? Write a check with the local moonshiner. I don't know what, but in Chicago, you don't write a check for 3 or 4 different things, and we all know what those are, so we can proceed.
That is hilarious.
One of them, gambling.
All right, we're going to switch topics here and go to what happened with Zion Williamson's sneaker. It just blew up. Bam! And so
I got to tell you, the Nike person that made that shoe that's overseas has just been demoted to the 10th sewing machine. She was working her way up. She was almost, a sergeant at arms on the 2nd sewing machine. But now that he blew his out, she'll take the blame on her $73 a month salary and have to live with it. While Nike, the stock went down.
Oh my gosh!
Stock went down
like over $1 billion. They took a hell of a hit.
And that's 2 things. You won't hear 2 things reported. One, of course, is that nonsense. Yeah. And Zion Williamson, on a bad shoe, that's a PG shoe, a Paul George shoe, that most of the pros wear. Right. Most of the pros wear a Paul George shoe.
Yeah,
okay? And so now he blows his thing out there, his tire, what we call when I was coaching, you blow a tire. I never had that happen. Nobody had that happen, but the kid is so powerful. Maybe it was a freak thing, but there was a defect in the shoe. The stock goes down. But here's what people aren't saying. Mm-hmm. And I want everybody to realize this. We were just talking, Aldo and I, and you'll learn more. Look, at you kids that go to Columbia for 4 years, spend your $80,000. Or listen to me and Aldo. It's one or the other.
That's right.
Okay? Because you'll get more of an education in 1 hour than you will in 4 years. Now, that being said, you don't hear about the Kaepernick icon jersey that was released on the same day that the shoe blew out. Okay? And that's fine. Nike has married into Kaepernick, and that's fine. And they come with that iconic jersey. Doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to buy one, but it doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. Good for whoever wants to buy it. But just don't blame the shoe on that day. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. 2 things happened that can cause, believe me, I played the stock market. My wife bought Starbucks when it first became public.
Ooh, nice.
I played the stock market and won and lost. You don't blame just one thing. When another thing of significance happened with the same brand on the same day. That's all I'm saying. It wasn't one thing or the other. It was 2 things, and we'll see what happens. I think the stock will come back. I think it will be forgotten about, and I think it's a good product. And I admire Phil Knight for selling his stuff out of a trunk of a car. He grew up like we did. Period. He made his way. But I'm saying you can't blame just one thing when two things made the news. But the media will make you believe it's just about the blowing out of the tire.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. That stock is going to come right back, and it will help Nike. It could come back a lot faster if they sign Williamson to a contract after he's eligible to sign a contract, because I read that Zion Williamson is probably going to sign the biggest shoe contract as soon as he's out of college. They're looking at probably $10 to $15 million a year for this kid, and Nike, you better believe, is going to go after him and try to sign him, because that would be really big in repairing the damage that they've undergone. Now, I want to ask you this. Does Zion Williamson say, you know what, I don't need to prove to anyone that I'm worthy of the number one draft pick. I'm going to just sit out the rest of the season, because that is what Cousins, what's his first name? I'm forgetting his first name. DeMarcus Cousins is saying that Williamson should do. This was him talking to reporters right after practice.
Well, knowing what I know now, college is bullshit. College basketball and NCAA is bullshit. So my advice to him is do what's best for you and your family. But obviously college you can't really, it does nothing for you at this point. You've proven you're the number one pick coming out. You've proven your talent. Get ready for the next level.
So he is saying college basketball is BS. He's already proven that he's worthy of being the number one draft pick. He should just stop playing and risk no further injury.
Okay, he could walk off a curb wrong. Is he going to stop walking? I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, did he do what he said he was going to? DeMarcus Cousins was a great ball player, but he didn't. I don't think he left early.
No, he did not.
I mean, he left early, but I don't think he quit during the middle of the season.
No.
If I knew then what I knew now, what are you, dope? Of course, you were going to be a draft pick, but you got to show your wares and you got to show your mettle. And you got to show that when you have adversity, you got to bounce back. Now, that doesn't mean that he wouldn't be taken number one, but I get a kick out of people that are waiting to anoint this kid, and people that say he's one of a kind. They didn't see Larry Johnson play. Are you out of your mind? Larry Johnson would eat Zion Williamson for breakfast. Okay? Larry Johnson was 6'7", 260 at the time. Now, you know what? That was 20 years ago.
Yep.
Zion Williamson, 6'7", 280. Well, I got news for you, my friend. Larry Johnson would give you the beating of your life because you're good with today's class of college athletes. But back then, you would have had a game almost every single night with somebody formidable in your way. I mean, it's ridiculous that he's one of a kind. Apparently, they never saw Charles Barkley at 6'4", 250. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, you know who says this? Mostly people under 35 or 30. Are you kidding me? Check out Larry Johnson. Check out Charles Barkley. Check out Rick Mahorn. Rick Mahorn, journeyman player, ended up being one of the leaders of the Bad Boys, 6'10", 260. Am I supposed to believe? Now, Mahorn was taller. Zion is 20 pounds heavier. But Mahorn at 260, 15, 20 years ago was huge. Am I supposed to believe Zion Williamson was going to give him a beating? Am I supposed to believe Zion Williamson was going to give Rodman a beating when he played against Karl Malone? Am I supposed to believe Zion Williamson was better than Karl Malone?
Interesting.
I mean, look at the guys around his size and then listen to the nonsense. Now, that being said, I hope the Bulls get him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But don't give me the nonsense. He's one of a kind. Ever. I know the game inside and out. I named 10 off my head the other day. Don't tell me this. And don't tell me about guys that are supposed to be all that. Kwame Brown was supposed to be all that. A lot of guys were supposed to be all that. This kid looks like a special person and a special player. But we do know this. He got hurt. And you don't want a general manager who wants to draft him going, I wonder how he'll react off a sprain. Will he come back and play in 3 weeks if we draft him? Or we come back and play like Larry Bird would, or Magic Johnson, or Michael Jordan the next night, or maybe a week later? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Do you think? Would you advise him though to sit out until the tournament starts?
No, the tournament makes you.
Right, until the tournament
starts. The tournament
starts.
will make him more money. You know what it's like? You finally made it to Broadway. You struggled in the backstage areas of New York, in the 200-seat areas. You're going to Broadway. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I proved myself. Are you kidding me? Go to Broadway, kid. You'll make even more money. And you know what? We don't want people to start saying you're brittle and scared.
Right. But what I'm saying is sit out until the tournament starts and then come back to play.
Well, what happens if they get a bad seed? And what's guaranteeing that they're going to win? Now, here's another thing I want everybody to know. Do you know on the starting team there's 2 or 3 McDonald All-Americans besides him?
Yes.
He's one of them.
Yes.
So they're loaded with talent.
Yeah.
And people are saying to themselves, and I got coached by Coach K. Coach K, like I've told the story, drafted us into Jordan camp, 35 and over, and we won it.
Nice.
Wait a minute. If you're telling me that these guys were supposed to collect their thoughts, and I coached for 6 years, if we lost our number one star 36 minutes into a game and are playing a rival like North Carolina, you're done for the game. You're done. I don't care who's on that team. That is an emotional thing that I think a lot of teams can't overcome. They were without their main guy. So when you're without your main guy, that emboldens the other team, and the team that's playing now has lost a little confidence because they don't even know what's wrong with him for the first half. They don't know if his knee's out and he's out for the year. So these guys hit 10 things on their mind, and then I hear people say, why didn't they recover and come back? You just don't know the game. You don't know the mentality. These are kids. I don't care if they're McDonald All-Americans, man. If you see your daddy fall off a roof, okay, how are you going to be going up that ladder?
Yeah.
Period.
Good point, Mike.
And that's what Zion going down. That's what Zion going down did.
All right.
Is this one of my strongest shows ever? You think our strongest shows ever? It's always us. I think we're on the right track today.
I think that you're bringing your A-plus game, which is about normal for you.
I'll tell you what. I only think so far we've pissed off about 233 people. And I don't give a rat's ass because, you know what? This is Bears Bar Room.
They're picketing outside the bar room right now. Free drinks. All right.
Free drinks for everybody. Oh, no. You know what? You want to come in? Have your drinks.
That's right.
But I see a couple people talking trash about the bar room. Mm-hmm. Just pretend I'm Chaz Palminteri. I heard some guy make a comment about my guy Shane the other day. I don't know what the deal is. He called the people in the bar room 5'4". Let me tell you this, kid. I'm Chaz Palminteri. Now you can't leave. Okay? Not Bronx tale, there's bar room tale. Don't pick on my son. Don't pick on my youngest.
I love it. All right, I got to talk to you about James Harden, who I know you've been tweeting a lot about.
Ball hog.
Hashtag stat stuffer, I think you wrote once.
Oh, my God. He got his 30 and they lost. You know, here's a guy. I got criticized for this. I said he shot like 33%, and I brought up the All-Star game, and these Houston Rocket fans got back to me on Twitter saying, oh, you're including the All-Star game? That's the game you should shoot 100% in. They play no D at all. He went 4 for 13. 4 for 13. Wait a minute. I understand he goes to the foul line a lot, but James Harden doesn't make anybody around him better. Nobody. I remember when Jordan took that heat, and then all he did was make everybody around him better.
Exactly.
James Harden is a ball hog. Yeah. Period. He wants his 30. His team ain't going anywhere. Somebody's bringing up, well, don't forget, Chris Paul's on that team. That's another reason not to like him. What's he ever won? My God. Yeah, that's like saying, don't worry, you're only going to get the regular flu and not the swine. Please. My God. What's wrong with everybody?
Well, last night Harden was fouled out. and he was called for 4 offensive fouls and got a tech. He was disqualified from the game, and he had a problem with the official named Scott Foster. Apparently, they've had problems in the past. This was Harden after the game talking about Scott Foster and saying that perhaps Foster should not be allowed to officiate any of the Rockets' upcoming games because it's becoming kind of a pattern that he's a very difficult official to work with. Here is James Harden.
I never really talk about officiating or anything like that, but just rude and arrogant. You aren't able to talk to him throughout the course of a game, and it's like, how do you build that relationship with officials? And I'm probably gonna get hit, but honestly, I don't really say anything. I'm a pretty quiet guy to myself, but it's one of those things where you can't voice your opinion. You can't have a conversation with someone that's officiating the game, and then you're getting a tech.
Nobody elbows his way to the hoops better than this guy. He goes to the free throw line. Look, I give him all the credit in the world. He initiates contact a lot of time, and the other guy gets fouled because they were trying to guard and move one. You can't even touch these guys anymore. This is a perfect scenario for him to be a hero to his family because they're not winning anything in Houston. And people better wake up who your coach is. Mike D'Antonio is your coach. Okay? Is that his name?
Yes.
The Italian guy that never wins anything. Okay?
That's right.
Believe me, he's the guy that never wins anything, but he'll give you an exciting... Look, he's a regular season hero, James Harden. That's what they are.
Yeah.
That's what Chris Paul is. Remember when Chris Paul was supposed to lead the Clippers?
Oh, yeah.
When this, we're going to go get DeAndre Jordan. We got him from the Mavericks. They were going to try to sign him. We saved his ass, Doc Rivers. We got this guy and that guy, and we finally got rid of Donald Sterling, and now we blow. I don't understand. Chris Paul has been not a closer since Wake Forest. Period. And if people go, well, look what he did for Wake Forest. No. I understand. Tim Duncan went there. Chris Paul went there. I understand. I give the kid, he gets a lot of commercials.
Yeah, he does.
Let me tell you something. If you were judging State Farm by his career, you'd have to pay on about 15 different car accidents. My God.
The premium would be sky high.
Oh, they love Chris. The media loves Chris Paul.
They do.
He's a mainstream media hero. He's the guy that's likable, wears the nice sweater, got his little home, but just doesn't close. This might be my strongest show since '97. I'm telling you, there's too much easy stuff. This was a day, I'd call it, it's not a mail-in day for me. It's called, the time will be eaten up so fast. Listen, we got to do at least an hour and a half today. We got so many things to talk about. That's just the way it is. I understand overtime. I worked overtime. I understand it. So if you need me overtime, I'm in.
All right, great. Well, let's get on to your picks, man.
Oh, I almost forgot about those. Yeah! You got the music?
The music is up and full.
Oh, God. That music led me to victory this year. It was like our national anthem. It really was. Last week I went 1-1, so I'm 5-1 now. I'm 0-1 on Mondays, but we're not going to include that on the Friday show. Okay? Because the Friday show, I just went off the top of my head last week, and I learned a lesson. I gave bad information on a game, and we ended up losing it on Monday night. I may never do that again. I may just keep it exclusively for... Nah, I'll end up giving another game Monday. But anyway, 5-1 overall.
Nice.
And you know what? I went back to the NBA last night, and I bet the Brooklyn Nets. And you know what? I had won 9 out of my last 14 because the NBA makes a big mistake. They leave for a week because LeBron and everybody needs rest. They're exhausted. And what they do is they open it up for college basketball. They open it up for me to start and to get into, and college basketball is the better product right now.
Yeah.
They're talking about getting rid of the one and done rule. The NBA is.
Right.
They want Zion Williamson. Believe me, they're going to get also Eddie Curry's. So remember, the one and done rule doesn't always work, folks. You spend a lot of money on high school kids, and you think they're going to be all that, and then 3 years later, they're walking the streets. Okay, and you spent a lot of dough. So I'm just saying, be careful of that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I got one of the great teams See, some of the teams, because the NBA, to me, I had the Brooklyn Nets last night. They absolutely were brutal. The NBA is just more unpredictable than the NCAA. And these are things that you people got to listen to. When they legalize gambling, I saw today Molly and Haw on Twitter are going to have some politician on to talk gambling. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You know? What does he do? The local bingo game in Wakena? I don't know. But it's a joke because the people they should be talking to are their own people that gamble, if they have those. Now, God, am I leaving anybody unscathed today?
I think let's see.
Am I covering all the bases? Am I spraying to all fields?
All fields.
Aldo's filling out the paperwork for legal.
That's right.
All right, here we go, Eld.
Okay.
First, Davidson's playing Rhode Island.
Davidson.
Now, Davidson. We still don't know where they're at. They're 19-7, but they're playing Rhode Island. I know where they're at.
Yes,
that's where Lamar Odom used to walk around campus with a pint bottle of whiskey in his backpack. He made Rhode Island famous. Okay. I don't think. And if you don't believe that, just read about Lamar Odom down the line. Okay. Yeah. He done graduated to bigger things.
Yes, much bigger.
Yeah, oh my God. And he also brought mountain climbing boots for a brief period. I'm going to go with Davidson. See, although I know you got that. Davidson minus 1.5 in this game. Mm-hmm. What do I know about Davidson? Not much. But it's the system. We went 5-1, and half the teams... I go to Aldo. We're taking Davidson. Aldo goes, Davidson. You know?
It's like, oh, wow.
Like, who are they? And I remember telling Aldo last week that it was like a bakery on Thorndale and Broadway. That was the Davidson we knew. Not anymore. They got a pretty good program over there. I'm going to go with Davidson minus the 1.5 versus Rhode Island. Now, that one tonight, Aldo, is on ESPN2.
Right.
DirecTV 209.
Right. Okay, and that's at 7 p.m., I believe, Central Time, 8 Eastern.
Oh, 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time.
Right. Okay, and Davidson...
Oh, no, 9 o'clock. My bad. 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time on ESPN2, DirecTV.
Excellent.
209. Okay. Now, my next game is a local game. And when I talk, look, they used to call me Big Ten Mike. Aldo didn't know that.
I didn't.
They used to call me a lot of things, but that's one of my nicer nicknames. Big Ten Mike. Jigs used to call me that all the time. You're Big Ten Mike. Because I'd always loved the Big Ten, you know. And Jigs was from Harvard, okay? So I get it, you know. If it was a debate, the Big Ten teams are losing. There's no question about it. But in basketball, you know. Anyway, I'm going to tell you something. I was minus 7 tonight. And against Indiana at Iowa. They are on Fox Sports 1.
Okay.
DirecTV 219. This is a minus 7 game. You know, Indiana is 13-13. Iowa's 20-6. Here's what everybody's going to think. It's a Big Ten matchup. Rugged, grinding type game. Indiana. Let me just tell everybody at Indiana this. And you remember me when I told you this. It was never going to get better when Bobby Knight left. Discipline would be gone. Oh, he grabbed the kid by the throat. Heaven forbid. He did. He grabbed the kid by the throat. Zero tolerance. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, everybody was graduating. They were winning championships. Yeah, he threw a chair across the floor. Was he boorish? Absolutely. Did the guy try to coach through fear? Absolutely. Was he a dinosaur? Absolutely. Welcome to the new age, Indiana Hoosiers, who would pray to God that Bobby Knight could walk through that door right now with none of his foibles and coach this team again. That being said, I'm going to take Iowa at Iowa, wiping out the Indiana Hoosiers, who I still don't like anymore. I mean, I used to get I had a red hoodie back in the day with the Indiana script across when Bobby Knight was coach.
Oh, really?
They let him go, I thought it was over.
That's over.
And it's going to be over for a long time at Indiana. Indiana basketball is gone, and it exited when Bobby Knight ended up taking that job at Texas Tech. And I'm not saying he didn't cause his own problems. He did. But I predicted the program would never be the same, and that I was right about. So I got Iowa, and I got Davidson today. 2 favorites, folks. And don't forget, if you don't believe, fade me. Go the other way. And that is it for our picks. Aldo, back to you.
Okay. Excellent job. Now, the Oscars are this weekend, so I got to ask you, do you have a favorite? I've got the odds here in front of me. I know that I have not watched... Let's see, how many movies have I watched?
I have watched them lately. I'm into it this year.
Good.
But as soon as somebody makes a political comment of any kind, I'm going to just shut it off. So I'll probably watch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Somebody will be stupid and make half the TV set shut off because they don't have discipline to know this is good for all of them.
Well, yeah,
and that's going to happen. They're just. If I was the producer of the show with Aldo, here's what I tell everybody.
Okay.
If you want to talk after the Oscars about strife in this country or before, say it. But we can't even find a host. Okay? I mean, it's so embarrassing. It is so embarrassing that you cannot maybe be a host because you French kissed a girl when you were 16. I mean, it is so bad out there right now. And you know what? It will get. Hopefully, a lot of things will change now because people won't jump to conclusions. But that being said, read me the favorite. Read me the 5 movies.
All right.
Because I've seen some of them.
Well, it's more than 5 nowadays. I think they expanded it.
Well, that's another thing. Can I just get into that?
Sure.
Everybody gets a trophy. It's all about who spends the money. It's about the Academy making more money. It's about bribery, extortion, whatever you want to talk it. Ad campaigns, anything you want. Slipping guys money to get their filming, and half of them suck. And you're not doing yourselves any favor. Am I too bold this morning, or do you think? I mean, seriously, it seems like something's taken over my body. I don't know what it is. Maybe my coffee.
Good man, extra strength coffee.
I come to play. To play, Aldo. You know that.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's look at.
We're going to tag everybody today. All the radio stations. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is why. You're doing 1-4s and 1s. You got to have difference. That's what we do.
All right, let's look at these movies. Let's begin with Roma. Odds 4-1. Do you know anything at all about this movie?
It's got to be from an Italian.
Actually,
it's got to be about Rome.
No, it's not. It's about.
What's it about?
It's about a Mexican housekeeper, Alfonso Cuarón, who I think won Best Director a year or 2 ago for Remnant. He's done some really good movies, but this is a very personal movie. I think it's on Netflix now. It's a very personal movie. The odds are 4-1 on this movie winning. So.
It's not going to win, but I would tell you this. I'm going to watch it and check it out. Yeah. I'm not going to say it can't win, but I got a couple movies that I've seen that I think will beat it because of campaigning.
Yes.
That's what we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
How much campaigning, how many people, Roma, unless you went to see it, you know there's other titles out there that people know off the top of their head now because of the publicity on the various TV channels.
Absolutely. Well, the next one on my list here is one that I know you've seen, but the odds are a real long shot. Bohemian Rhapsody, 19-2 odds.
Oh, what a movie. The guy that played him, terrific. You found out things that you didn't even know. I didn't know Freddie Mercury was Pakistani, for instance. Great movie. Talks about his family, talks about his upbringing, talks about his sexual issues, talks about what he eventually got and how he eventually died. But the music is sensational. It was well done. I guess, and this is what my movie I'm trying to avoid, but sometimes you can't, because what happens is you write a script, and we're, by the way, almost done with our first act.
Oh, nice.
Of script. It's going to be done in a week, and I'm going to get it sent to me from L.A., and then, I'll let me and you will read it because you're writing the autobiography, Aldo. And but it's about taking liberties, and I think the criticism it's getting is that the autobiography, half of it is like, or I will say a third of it isn't true. And if you're going to tell the story, but you have to fill time, you have to maybe bring in a character to make the story better.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And I don't care if you're talking about Custer's Last Stand. Mm-hmm. They died with their boots on. They took liberties.
Oh, yeah.
You know, any autobiography that's done, for the most part, there's some BS involved, period. That being said, I like the odds. I think Bohemian Rhapsody's great. And I think the right people are going to be voting for it. Mm-hmm. Period.
The actor Rami Malek is 16-5 odds for Best Actor. He's kind of the odds-on favorite to win the Best Actor award. Let's get back to the best.
Great job. Great job. Looked like him. Everything. I mean, just great job, great story. Me and BB enjoyed it. They come out, and then 2 weeks later, it's on DirecTV. So I watched the stuff in my living room, which is great. People say the movie houses may be dying, but they're making money hand over fist by getting it out to the masses instead of to the people. I remember you didn't see The Godfather come on TV for 5-6 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Gone with the Wind, it took 30 years or something. Wizard of Oz wasn't on right away. Now they'd be on in a week.
Yep, and I like that. I mean, I still like going to the movie theater and experiencing that, but at the same time, convenience is very important when you get to be my age.
The last time I went to the movies, I went to see Casino. No, I went to see The Mask of Zorro.
Really?
And me and my buddy and B and some guy was kicking my chair.
Yes, I hate that. Oh my gosh,
And what this guy didn't understand was when I asked him the first time not to kick my chair.
Uh-huh.
I felt it again like 10 minutes later, and me and my buddy Louie got up and said, don't do it again. And that was the end of that. But you don't need that crap.
Yeah, you don't need that at all. All right, there's a movie called Green Book.
Have enough discipline not to kick the chair in front of you, you douche.
Green Book is 11-2, and that's the movie with Viggo Mortensen, where he plays a chauffeur for a piano player played by Mahershala Ali. Have you heard of that movie?
I watched it.
Oh,
I saw it.
Wow, what'd you think?
Listen, when I get calls from my friends to go to the movie and see Green Book, well, it's about my heritage first. Italian. It's got the African American gentleman who was Don Shirley, who lived above Carnegie Hall and decided to go on a trip in the Deep South in the 1960s. Now, Viggo Mortensen is a man that if you ask me to name my favorite Viggo Mortensen's movies, okay, I'm just gonna look at you, okay? That's basically what I'm gonna do. I don't have a favorite Viggo Mortensen movie, never did, until this one. He put on 50 pounds for the role because Viggo Mortensen is about 180 pounds. He's about 235 in the movie. He dyed his blondish gray locks black. And he played an Italian bouncer from the main guy from the Copacabana who knew Rickles and knew all these guys. There's pictures of him, of the real guy, and Don Shirley. And he was the driver who was assigned to protect this guy in the Deep South. And it's a great movie. It talks about how they get off to a rocky start, sort of like me and you, Aldo, you know. and then they become fabulous. No, and then they become fabulous friends, and then the rest, and then they become friends. And I won't tell the whole movie, but it's my pick. That's my pick.
Really?
Period.
All right. So at what were the odds again?
But you can go with the other ones.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them, but I will if you got some good ones for me. Which you haven't seen any of these movies, right?
I've seen a couple. This next one I saw, it's Black Klansman, the Spike Lee movie. The odds are 7-1.
Well, I think what Spike Lee wants is that Oscar.
Oh, yeah.
Spike Lee is considered a rebel until he wants an Oscar. Okay? Then all of a sudden he's not a rebel anymore. Spike Lee is more I know Spike. I had lunch with Spike. I had lunch with Spike, Shaquille O'Neal, and some of their representatives back in the day at Gibson's.
Wow.
Downtown. Well, Shaq came on my show and he brought Spike Lee with him.
How about that?
Spike Lee and Spike sat next to me. Nice guy. Do not believe all the garbage. Spike says stuff. But he's mainstream now, and he wants. I think Spike wants that Oscar. I would too. I mean, when I won 4 hosts of the Year Award on radio, and I won 2 Emmys. But I was considered a rebel, and I am. But yet I beat the system. And I think that's what Spike wants to do. I don't think he's going to do it. I think there's too many strong entries. But in fairness, I haven't seen Black Klansman yet, so I will.
You're going to hate the ending. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
I
you know
did
what?
not...
I mean, I know what Spike. Look, Spike. Look, I love Do the Right Thing. I love it. But a lot of his movies suck. Crooklyn sucked. Period. He makes a lot of bad movies. Chirac sucked. So he makes some bad movies too.
Yeah.
That's been his problem. Some of these movies are really, really good, and some of them aren't so good.
Yeah, and this movie has, I think, my review of it is that it's got both. It's got some really bad things, and it's got some really great scenes. Overall, it's watchable, but it's definitely not Oscar-worthy. All right, let's get on to Black Panther. 8-1 odds. I've seen this, or I should say, I saw about an hour of it and fell asleep. I was bored out of my mind.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. I like new superheroes. I think Marvel's done a good job. Their people try to do it. I'm happy for that movie. But I really knew Black Panthers, as I told you last week.
Yes.
I mean, my God, Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton's a hometown guy who got murdered or killed. It's still with Richard Hanrahan. I know the whole history of the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
I read Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver. I mean, so I don't want to be lectured by anybody, but I probably won't see Black Panther. Okay. It's getting too much hype, and then when I talk to people, they say it's not that good. Well, that's the media hyping it, and they made a lot of money. But when you hear word on the street it's not that good, just like from you, period, I'm not going to see it.
Yeah.
And that's wrong in a way, but I'm not voting on the Oscars.
Right.
But if you were watching it like Eldo and he falls asleep, you're not winning.
Yeah.
I know Eldo knows movies. I know Eldo knows movies. If you're falling asleep an hour in, it's not winning, or it shouldn't win. But because, once again, where they're at, because of maybe they want to give a black film to make the Academy look good, the Oscar, it wouldn't be surprised if it won. And plus, you can't argue with the receipts.
Oh.
You can't.
Well, that's one good thing of why I like the fact that it was nominated, because a lot of times the big box office winners are overlooked by the Academy.
Right.
And so this makes sense from that standpoint. But as a movie, I'm kind of soured on most of the Marvel movies. They're all starting to feel and look the same. And I know there's people in the chat room who are probably going to say, you're nuts, Aldo. But as I've gotten older, these special effects heavy movie, I'm just getting more and more bored by them.
The best movie ever made was Superman for the special effects of when it happened with Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman. Watch it for when it was cut out. I mean, we saw George Reeves jump out of a window and into a mattress. If you've seen Hollywoodland, which is about his life.
Oh, excellent movie! Excellent
the way
movie.
that they did Superman, the first one, is unbelievable. And Batman, there's nobody else to me. There's Superman, Batman, and then the rest. It's sort of like Ruth and Gehrig, and then you got the Yankee team photo. Pick out your third favorite, because these two guys are solid. Superman and Batman, period.
As America's team in the chat room says, you're nuts, Aldo. I knew somebody was going to call me out for my opinion on Marvel movies. All right, let's move on. A movie that I have not seen, but I'm really anxious to see is A Star is Born. I know you've seen it, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sort of having trouble renting it, because now I'm hearing Brad Cooper and Gaga, and I don't call her. She told me, call me Gaga. I go, you're welcome. Gaga. If you look at the 76 movie, and I'm going to watch A Star is Born, don't get me wrong, but I guarantee you I will see. I want to know what the difference is from the trailers I've seen between Christopherson and Cooper and Streisand and Gaga. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm sure I'll find some nuances. But he's a down-and-out singer, and then people are trying to say he wrote A Star is Born? No. You plagiarized it, my friend. You plagiarized it. If you don't tell me you wrote an original script when the movie's been done 3 times. But I will watch it. People went gaga over it, get it? But I bet you'll like Bohemian Rhapsody over A Star is Born. Have you seen it yet?
No, I have not seen either one of those, so those are on my
Why
list.
don't we run it to the box. Why are we running to rent it? Why? Because it got hyped so much that it's almost impossible. And by the way, they got ignored at the Golden Globes for the most part. They didn't get Best Movie or anything like that. And Cooper, he's getting criticism now because he's walking around acting like he's a genius.
Yeah. I saw a couple of interviews with him on late night TV, and I did get that impression. Well, we'll see what happens.
He thinks, watch the one with Andy Devine, Frederick March, and Janet Gaynor. Watch that one. Okay. And then watch Judy Garland and James Mason, and then watch Barbara, and then listen to Brad Cooper, like he wrote an original script. And I like Bradley Cooper, but he's so full of shit. Oh, my God. My God, you stole the movie. That's it. That's fine.
I love it. All right, there's a movie called The Favorite.
I don't think I'm going to be invited to the Oscars.
I don't think you'll be invited to any of the after parties, that's for sure.
Boy, that's a shame, because in my heyday, I would have had the joint rocking. And everybody knows it. I would have had Elton John going strong.
I love it.
I would have gone to Swifty Lazar's party. I would have looked at him and I said, "You're an 80-year-old man, and they still call you Swifty. Not good."
Lazar. Swifty Lazar was one of the famous agents in Hollywood. Am I right or wrong?
Right. And he was about, at the end, they're calling him Swifty. It took him like 10 minutes to get from the dining room to the front room. Come on.
All right, there's a movie called The Favorite, which I've heard a lot about, but I've not. I really can't give you a recap on it because I don't know what it is.
I can't either. What's it about? Anything?
There's 7.
The only favorite I know is Davidson tonight.
Davidson, that's right.
See how quick I am? It's a gift.
Do you even know where Davidson is located?
I don't know what I'm going to say next. Do I know where Davidson's located? I went to a pizza joint the other night and I got lost, and it was down the street.
All right, here's a capsule review on The Favorite. In the early 18th century, England is at war with the French. Nevertheless,
all right, that's enough. That's
exactly.
Put some. These idiots walked towards each other, knelt down, and shot each other without hiding behind a tree. And I'm supposed to watch these guys. Is it the Revolutionary War?
Something like that. I don't know.
Was it the Redcoats?
I don't know. Something. And then it goes on to say there's something about duck hunting or duck racing and pineapple. And no, I'm not going to watch that. I'm sorry.
Forget about it. You agree with me on the Revolutionary and the Civil War? How smart are you if you kneel down in front of each other, point weapons at each other, and shoot?
Exactly. And you're wearing red.
I mean, I can't. To this day, I would have said, I got a better idea. There's a rock I'm going to hide over there. Okay?
Exactly.
My God.
Hey, guys, I'm not a coward, but I think it's better if we hide behind the rock.
Oh, I'm a strategist. Maybe you don't know what that word means, but I think we got a better chance if we hide behind trees and rocks than if we kneel down in front of each other, say hi, and then kill each other. And then they go ready, aim, fire. So you know it's coming, and you go, this is going to be good. That's why we lost 537,000 guys in the Civil War.
That's right.
My God.
Very true.
Worst war ever, man.
Worst war, definitely. All right.
Worst war.
Vice is at 19 to 2 hours. That's the last movie on our Best Picture list. That's the story about Dick Cheney and how he kind of manipulated his way into becoming the vice president. Have you seen it, and what are your thoughts if you have?
Well, I do agree. I do know this. It gave Christian Bale another opportunity to eat and be a fat slob. That's one thing. Like an American Hustle. Here's what I'm going to say about Christian Bale. He's already criticizing the guy he played. You're a piece of crap. You're making a lot of money off this movie, and you're criticizing the guy you played. If you felt that strong about him, don't even play him. But then you're going to say you're artistic. Give me a break. You know what? I don't care if I ever see a Christian Bale movie. I think he sucked as Batman, but the Christian Bale fans would tell you he was great. American Hustle was great. I liked it. You had Brad Cooper, you had Jennifer Lawrence. But I don't care if Christian Bale does it. He's sort of like Daniel Day-Lewis to me. You know what? If you make a movie, fine. If you don't, fine too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
God, I'll tell you what. If there's a bounty on anybody's head, and you said, did North have enemies? Too many to mention, not too few, like Frank Sinatra. Too many.
That's right. The police are interrogating me about your disappearance. And did he have any enemies, Mr. Gandia? And I go,
yeah.
well, just listen to the last couple of shows.
Believe me, if I disappear, okay, or if I get hurt, it was real. My God.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I'm sorry, although I hate to make you laugh on a continuous basis, but I gotta be what I gotta be. I gotta be me. I gotta be me. Sammy Davis Jr., great Masters thing on Channel 11 about his 60. He was a 60-year entertainer, one of the greatest entertainers who ever lived.
Absolutely.
Top 5 easily.
Absolutely. And he was, from all accounts, he was very prolific in the bedroom, huh?
And he had no money left at the end.
Oh, man, we've heard
he
that story.
He had nothing. He basically lived, they said, paycheck. I mean, big paycheck. He lived his life good. Yeah. And he still paid. This is interesting. Mm-hmm. This is what I love about a guy like Sammy Davis Jr. All they did was criticize him because he hugged Nixon and everything else. This guy was opening doors. Sinatra got him into the stands. Look, I could teach an African-American class to African-American kids, and they've never been told this. I guarantee you. All you see, man, the guy got into President Nixon, man, the guy got into the White House. Mm-hmm. Okay, when the only people that could get in there were black were the servants. Mm-hmm. Okay, for the most part, or heads of state somewhere. I mean, period. Mm-hmm. So I thought that he was unfairly criticized. And now guys like Eddie Murphy and everybody else are acknowledging him, that if it wasn't for him, Gregory Hines and everybody else said it, and they had these testimonials, if it wasn't for him, they'd be set back still in a lot of areas. So I find that hard to believe at this age, certain age, but in the 90s and 80s, of course.
He would make, Sammy Davis Jr. would make a great movie topic because, controversial career, great entertainer, lots of background stuff that a lot of people don't know about him. Definitely worth...
I might have to teach an African-American class. You know of a university that could use a white boy to teach African-American history?
I don't, but people don't know that, people may not know that you were a columnist for the Chicago Defender, which is a African-American owned and operated newspaper that was read mostly by African-Americans, and you were a columnist.
It's the most powerful one of its time. I went in to be vetted. It's going to be in the movie, where I'm vetted for 3 hours. And believe me when I tell you this, I know all these lily white columnists and stuff. If they went in, they'd be vetted. They wouldn't make it. Mm-hmm. Listen. In the 70s, I was buying Jet magazine. Does anybody know what Jet magazine is? Jet magazine was a smallish magazine that was about black entertainers who I love and black politicians and anybody of prominence in the black community. Mm-hmm. And it fell on hard times. But, I mean, when I was in the service, that was one of my go-to magazines because I loved people like Lola Falana, Sammy Davis Jr., Flip Wilson. I'll go all day. I'll go all night long like Lionel Richie. And there's nobody that can stand with me when it comes to black entertainment. Nobody. And I'll stake my reputation on it. And I mean it. And Sammy Davis Jr. paid the Will Masterson Trio. That's how he started as a 5-year-old kid. When he made it big, they were done. He paid them. He kept paying them. That's the kind of guy he was. And Frank Sinatra helped him so much. And there's rumors that he lost his eye, not from a car accident, but because he was married to a white woman named My Brit, and he was also, a guy that was with white women, that he had his eye cut out.
Ooh.
So, there's always been that urban legend. I think it was a car accident, but there's a lot of sketchy, like you said earlier, sketchy stuff to that story. Don't forget, this was in the late 50s, early 60s.
Right. Well, Jerry...
And Sinatra did more for him, and guys like Joe Louis. Mm-hmm. You know, what's always forgotten is a lot of the people that helped these guys get to where they had. We talked about Branch Rickey.
Yep.
Without Branch Rickey, there's no Jackie Robinson.
Right.
Period. And if you think there is, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Right. Jerry64 says that there is a documentary on Sammy Davis Jr. that just came out on PBS on their American Masters series. Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
That's the one I'm talking about, American Masters. I got it wrong, Jerry. Thank you. It's unbelievable.
Excellent.
But if he doesn't have Sinatra, I mean, Sinatra, I love him because that's what I did when I worked. I stood up for the lower paid guys. I got people more money wherever I worked. I people on all my projects who are just regular people or guys that have a mind of their own, and that's what Sinatra did. And Frank Sinatra to me is one of the greatest civil rights leaders by example that ever lived. And if you think otherwise, you don't know what you don't know the history of Frank Sinatra. Period. And he paid for Joe Louis's funeral. Nobody else picked up a dime. Paid for Joe Louis's funeral. Got Sammy Davis Jr. in. I mean, said if he doesn't walk through the front door of the Sands, I'm not either. And that was that.
That's awesome.
And he went through, and Sammy became prevalent.
That is a documentary I will definitely be looking for, and hopefully there will be a Hollywood movie on Mr. Davis's life sometime down the future.
Who would you have play him?
Who would play?
You know who would have been great?
Who?
I'm not kidding you. Jussie Smollett. He blew it off.
Yes.
No, he's a smallish guy. Sammy was like 5 foot something, about 100 and something. Real little. His legs, when he's dying, he out tap dances Gregory Hines in the documentary, and he's dying of cancer. He's got throat cancer.
I think Jussie Smollett's next role is going to be over at Joliet Prison. It's going to be doing a chorus girl at the penitentiary.
New movie coming out, Booty and the Guys.
All right, I want to close the show with this piece of audio that I found about Coach. Former NBA coach Don Nelson, former NBA player too. He was at a gathering of Golden State Warriors superstars from the past, and I guess they have this kind of thing where they acknowledge heroes from the organization's past. And Coach Don Nelson was asked what he's been up to, and Nelson is, I think, in his mid-70s. No, he's actually 78 years old, and so he was asked what he's been up to, and this was his response.
Yeah, I've been smoking some pot, actually.
It's legal now.
Yeah, but I never smoked when I played or coached, so it's new to me. But anyway, I'm doing that, and I'm having a pretty good time. It's more legal now than it's ever been, and so I'm enjoying that.
So Nelly actually has a brand of marijuana that is called Nelly Kush, and it's made by a friend of his where they've taken a couple of popular strands of marijuana and they've renamed it Nelly Kush. And Coach Don Nelson appeared at this press conference with a ponytail. He still has a lot of his hair left. He looked really like a stoner from the 60s, and he seems to be enjoying life. Not bad, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he looked a little bit like Greg Allman. To be honest with you, if he lets the hair grow. Here, I'll say this about Don Nelson. Overrated coach, never won anything. Okay?
Yeah.
That's fine. But I'll say this. He drank, and I think now that people are seeing that marijuana is being legalized, and I got to believe this. There would be no movie about me without drinking. I mean, that's just the way it's in the movie. Yeah. If I would have just smoked marijuana, okay, you go, you're mellow, you're this, you're that, for the most part. You ever see anybody get angry? Hey, take it easy. He's, why? He had 2 joints, he's a little hot. No! It's Don Nelson found out about marijuana late in his life, and he's smoking it. I couldn't be happier for him. He gets to be 78. What else is there to do? I know he's successful. He's in shape. There's no doubt that he drank so much, probably with the Celtics. I mean, Larry Bird drank a case. Chris Ford said Larry Bird, a night before a game, could drink a case of beer.
Wow.
Period. A case. Now, it's not an easy thing to do, but when you're tall, you can. There's other athletes that can put away. I mean, Andre the Giant put away 10 bottles of wine. If these guys would have smoked grass, okay, I think that they're better off. I really do. I think alcohol, you never hear somebody getting behind a wheel smoking marijuana that, wipes out somebody on the highway for the most part. It's usually they're drunk.
Yep.
DUIs. Not to say that you can't smoke marijuana and drive impaired. That's what they call it.
Right.
But if you've drunk 2 bottles of champagne and driven home, or you've smoked 3 joints, I got news for you. You were better off buying 3 joints or smoking 3 joints. You're going to make it home.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now,
Yep.
I wonder what Mike North would have sounded like smoking 3 joints and going on the air at the Score or here at Bears Barroom. I mean, that would be a different Mike North, wouldn't it?
Well, how do I sound now? I'm just kidding. You know what? I think you can. I think there's guys on the air that are high every day on radio around the country.
I think so, too.
And if you think there isn't, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
I think Richard Pryor did his act high or
my
drinking.
gosh, yeah.
But he smoked crack. He smoked marijuana. Yeah. Robert Mitchum smoked marijuana in the 40s. Did time on a chain gang. I mean, these guys acted under the influence of marijuana. You can't act under the influence of drinking a bottle of whiskey. Well, you can.
Yeah.
Maybe John Wayne did 3 shots before a scene in El Dorado. But I think, you know what? It's just a different thing. Marijuana is being legalized for a reason. But I do know this. I think to say that you can't get hooked on marijuana is a fallacy, too.
Oh,
because
I agree with that.
I saw a documentary where guys get up in the morning, or people, and they smoke a joint an hour after they're up, and they smoke throughout the day.
Yeah.
There was somebody, and then I hear one of the presidential candidates, they're saying they smoked it.
Right.
So it's become a whole new ball game.
Oh, total new game. And just like we're expecting gambling to be legal in all 50 states, or it is legal, but to be enacted in all 50 states, I think we'll see the same with marijuana very soon as well, especially
but Illinois always, with gambling, with anything that could make them money.
Yeah.
They're always so stupid and slow.
That is...
They're always so stupid and slow and angling and money for this. This is a tough state. This is a tough state to do business. I mean, you got Tony Preckwinkle going to make decisions on gambling, and Dick Durbin and Mike Madigan. Crazy. They can't even pay off the lottery.
That's right. CB fan says that you need.
Well, now I'm going to be stopped, and I'm going to have a tail light out by accident.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
CB fan says that you need to try Durban Poison, which I'm assuming is a strand of stuff, and maybe Dick Durbin is behind it. I don't know.
I don't know anything about this stuff, but I'll tell you this: there's no doubt in my mind. Look, when you're a kid, I smoked a joint back in the day. I didn't smoke marijuana. I mean, because it didn't do anything. After we saw Easy Rider, we went and found a nickel bag. Okay, and we tried it. We went to the bowling alley and started drinking. It didn't do nothing for us. So that's basically that's back then. It was demonized and everything else, and you drank.
Did you ever smoke cigarettes?
And that was it. And then people start doing both.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's a toughie.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a toughie, I think. To do both to me would be a toughie. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you ever smoke cigarettes?
Oh yeah. I smoked cigarettes till I was 27. I smoked in the Army I learned how to do a couple things. I learned how to march.
Okay.
I learned how to drink. For sure. And that. Period.
Okay.
What was the last thing? I lost my train of thought. What was it?
I think we're gonna leave it.
I learned a lot of bad habits in the service, but I learned a lot of great habits too.
Yeah.
The Army's good.
The Army
was good for me. The Army was good for me, man. It gave me structure. It taught me. I think a lot of problems we have with our gangs and everything else. Back in the day, there was a thing called the draft, and I got drafted during the Vietnam War. So I was counting the days almost. I'm going, oh my God! But we didn't have to go. But I always have thought that it used to be you'd go to jail if you did a crime, or you could go in the Army.
Yes.
And they took that ability away.
Yes.
And I think a lot of kids would be saved if instead of going to jail for 3 years, they had to enter the service for 2.
Oh.
That's just me. And there's drill sergeants, and they ain't going to mess around with you, and they're going to. I mean, nobody bounce off. They're taught discipline. You're taught a vocation. I got my GED in the Army. I just don't understand why people think it's for petty crimes. You put somebody in jail and you think you're helping them. Put them in the Army.
I agree.
And then, you know what? They'll get something out of it at the end, and then they have an honorable discharge if they can make it through.
I agree 100% with you. Totally
It's
agree.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Go to jail or nothing. Back then, you had a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would have told my dad, if I got in trouble, my dad would have told me, you're going in the Army. There's no doubt about it. You're not going to jail.
That's right.
If you can save yourself from... Why would the Army put restrictions on people, especially if you put them in the infantry, that are supposed to, defend the country?
Yes.
I mean, criminals are patriotic, too. They are.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
They are.
And that's something that escaped. Oh, he had a felony. He got caught with no, he had a marijuana bust. He can't go in the Army. Are you serious?
That's right.
Come on.
There's more marijuana use in some parts of the Army or military.
I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Jed. No, not about that. We all know about the Beverly Hills Police. I'm going to tell you a story. This is a true story. I won't mention his name. Well, everything I tell you is true. I grew up with the guy. He became a Chicago policeman. And he was a policeman for a long time. And he smoked marijuana every day. And he was one of the best cops ever. Okay? That's all I know. He'd go before his job and smoke marijuana.
Well, I remember.
Okay? I don't know how they got around drug testing. I don't know what they did.
I don't think they did.
I don't even think they did it.
Yeah.
Back then, I don't even know what was going on. But he was a great cop.
Right.
And you know what? It's hard to argue. Now, if he drank every day, like a lot of these guys,
he would not have been a great cop.
That's right. Period.
Yep.
I'm just telling the truth. I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
I used to meet him for coffee once in a while.
And he was already caffeinated, but with THC.
Right. But you didn't know it.
But
if he drank, you'd smell it, you'd hear it, you'd hear it in his voice, you'd hear him act irrational, and the guy, he's a cop.
Greg Bragg.
And there's cops that will. Look, policemen, I love them. Made my money. I wanted to be a cop in the 70s. Now, no way. And I was an MP in the service. But there's no way I'd become a cop now. But I love the police force, and they protected my hot dog stands. I always had cops around. Always. They're great people. Oh. And, the guys, they're just regular. They were street guys. Now, you got to go to college, for Christ's sake, almost.
The toughest job out there, in my opinion, are police officers and firefighters. Oh, yeah. These guys are everyday heroes, putting their lives on the line for our safety and security. They get particularly police officers, because there's a few, whatever you want to say, bad apples out there. They get the bad press or what have you. But we have.
Oh wait, Van Dyke. Look at that Van Dyke guy. I'm sorry, I can't justify it. I never will.
Mm-hmm.
And I always give policemen the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
And then he gets beat up in prison. I understand they set him up, no doubt, to give him what he had coming. Mm-hmm. But you can't put 16 slugs into a guy and then say, you know what, it was procedural. You can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it just can't. And for people and then to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's when the Rahm Emanuel story started unraveling.
Yeah.
That's why he's not running again.
Yeah.
I think.
Whatever happened to Rahm Emanuel's middle finger? I noticed the other day that he's missing his middle finger. Did he flash it at the wrong person? Yeah. Let me look this up. I think he lost it in some kind of accident or something like that. Rahm Emanuel in his right hand.
Fighting over paperwork with the president back in the day.
That's right.
They chopped his finger off for disloyalty.
I can't believe we're having another election.
And by the way, he was starting. I think the sad thing about him.
Mm-hmm.
He was starting to turn the corner a little bit. I talked to city workers that told me things were starting to get better, and then that crap happened. That was it. That was it. You got to get out. You can't have the Van Dyke thing and run. You can't have that hanging over your head.
Yeah, not a good thing. Anyway, Greg Braggs is saying, "Boy,
we cover everything."
Yes, Greg Braggs is thanking us for going overtime. He wishes we would be a 2-hour show every time we're on, and that's not a bad idea.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We definitely.
Yeah, but we're working on. We got to do the autobiography. We got to do. I think the letter J today. Ooh, that's going to be busy.
Yes.
So it's not like we're done with this and then we're saying goodbye to each other.
That's right.
We're going to work about an hour on the autobiography today, which is coming out soon. I just met with the publisher. By the way, we got a name for the movie. As of now. Now, let me just explain everything to people. When you come out with the name of a movie, for instance, Burt Reynolds, the name of the movie was The Last Movie Star. Okay?
Yes.
That wasn't the original name. Okay? It was something else for about 8 years. But then the studios jumped in, Tribeca and others. And when a studio gives you so much leeway or money, they get to call some of the shots. And I'm saying it was a pretty good name that they changed it to. But if they don't like my name and we get studios involved, which we will, at the end with Adam Rifkin and Jeremy Morrison and team, North, then if they change it and they give us money, I might have to bite my lip. But right now, the name of the movie being announced for the first time on this show, and this could be changed, maybe me and Adam, is Raging Mouth.
Oh, what a great title. I love it.
Name of the movie. Be the name of the movie.
Go there. Tooch loves the title, says it's a great title.
Raging Mouth. Everybody seems to like it. I tell you, there's been Chicago Mike was one. I said, listen, time out. We were sitting in having a telephone meeting. Time out. Chicago Mike sounds like a used car lot on Western Avenue. Come to Chicago Mike's for the 1978 Impala right now at the low price of $1,100. Originally sold for $2,000. Chicago Mike's. Now back to wrestling. You know? No. So Raging Mouth seems to be where we're going. But if a studio comes in, let's say Disney says, we like your product. You know? And we don't like the movie Raging Mouth. That title. And we want to call it Chicago Mike.
Yeah.
I might have to eat it, but I'm telling you, Raging Mouth is it.
Well, I think the only one who would want it titled Chicago Mike is Dick Wolf, the producer of Chicago Police, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med. He'd probably want to call it Chicago Mike just to keep.
Can I just say that, by the way, if we make the movie in Chicago, the place where they shoot Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Chicago janitor, Chicago gas station attendant, whatever. Empire is shot there. It's going to be at the CineSpace.
That's right.
A lot of it.
Oh, cool.
Which is going to be, and we will get some breaks and stuff like that, hopefully.
Yes.
And it's a great business. And I mean, I give them all the credit in the world. It's a huge facility, and that's why there's so many Chicago, because of the beautifulness of it and the way it's done. That's why a lot of the productions are in Chicago now that weren't before.
That's right. It's.
I've been doing my homework, Aldo.
Yeah.
Raging Mouth. That's what it is.
I love that title. Everyone in the chat room is saying they love it too. So that is a great way to end our show.
Well, that's good because public perception is going to steer too. It's good that we got this show. We can hear from the folks in the chat room.
Absolutely.
Because if they didn't like it, they would tell me because we're honest.
Yeah. By the way, Heart 4803 is recommending that Jay in the autobiography be for Jag Bag.
Well, okay, but here's another thing. It's going to be here's what I think Jay should be. Okay. We're going to do a couple chapters that are going to be more than one thing.
Yes.
In other words, for instance, Jay could mean jiggets, could mean journalism, could mean jag bags. There might be 3 or 4. I'm not saying every chapter is going to be one, because unless I save jigs for, and I can't. I got to have jigs almost in a separate category.
Yeah.
But everything else spins off him.
Yeah.
In other words, Jagbag originated with him, with me and him. So we'll make that decision, and we'll keep it in suspense. But that's a good suggestion. Jagbag, I'm in the Urban Dictionary for. If you want to look up the Urban Dictionary, they won't give me credit, but it says it was made up by a Midwestern talk show host. They won't even give me credit for the Urban Dictionary.
That's crazy.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Like they're hurting me? No, you're not hurting me. You're hurting yourself. Give credit where credit's due.
Exactly.
I mean, what are you, goofy?
Let's be factual about the thing. Let's not hide the truth.
It's going to be in the movie. Rod Gleason walks in. I said Jag-off on the air back in the 90s, early 90s.
Great story.
I said, this guy's a Jag-off. Okay? So now, Jesse Rogers comes in, and he says, Ron Gleason wants to talk to you. I go, about what? You said jag off on the air. I go, so what? Okay. It's 92 or 93, something like that. And there were a lot more things you could say. That's why I get a kick out of, let's bring out some guy's old tweets. You know, let's bring out that poor Kevin Hart's old tweets. Hey, man, you could say the N-word on radio back in the 90s.
Yeah,
did you know that?
Right.
So it's a whole different ballgame. So then I go into Gleason's office, and this is going to be in the movie, and he goes, did you just say what I think you said on the air? I go, what? Jag off. I go, yeah, was it dumped? He goes, no, but I don't think you should say it. Guys, in fact, I don't want you to say it. And for one of the few times in my life, I said, okay, but what am I going to replace it with? He goes, that's up to you. So I walk in. We're at commercial still with 2 minutes left. Jigs, I go to Jigs. I go, Jigs, they don't want me saying jag off on here. Jigs goes, I sort of figured that. You know what I mean? and I go, yeah. So then, as soon as we come back on the air, I said, I'm not allowed to say jag off on the air anymore. I said the word again. But I got a new word. And he goes, what's that, Mike? I go, jag back. And that's the rest is history. I just came up.
What a great story. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Jigs was great. Jigs would never judge me, but he goes, I sort of figured that was going to happen.
That's a great impression of him.
Oh, he's my guy. I love him.
All right. It is time to say goodbye.
This was the best show we've ever done. I say that every week. But you know what? We're going to address a lot of people. They're going to learn about radio, the media, racism, sex, everything. You name it. It's a class we gave today, Aldo and I.
It was all Mike North. I'm just here having a great time. Don't forget.
Yeah, it's all me. That's the story of my life. The next thing you know, I got a white flag yelling surrender.
Don't forget that the Mike North Advantage is brought to you by Verdoliak Law Firm and our buddies over at Tix Blitz. Go over there to get your tickets. Mike, say goodbye to your fans.
So long, everybody.